Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Today's guest is a visionary at the cutting edge of AI and consumer behavior. Shahar Boyayan is a leading expert in leveraging artificial intelligence to decode customer trends and transform business strategies. She is the author of the influential report AI-Driven Consumer Trends and Business Applications, Navigating the Near Future of Commerce and the 8 Laws of Irresistibility, which has become a go-to resource for businesses looking to harness AI's power in shaping customer decisions. With more than 20 years of experience as a consultant working with entrepreneurs and mid-sized companies, Shahar has a passion for demystifying complex concepts and making AI practical and actionable for businesses. Shahar, welcome to the conversation.
I'm really glad to be here.
I am so glad to have you here and have this conversation. Customer behavior and customer experience is one of my favorite topics to consider in any context. But when we layer in what we can do in that experience with AI, it's so much more interesting. So describe for us a little bit about what you're doing with your clients right now and why it's important today.
You know, one of the constant things we have in the business life or as entrepreneur is constant change. Things change very often, many changes. We can sit down and wait to see what's going to happen and then adapt to whatever happens next. But with the AI, what we are seeing is that right now, the AI is nothing new, right? You know, it's been around for some years, but now is the time that the consumer is really trying to use it, and it's almost becoming an extension of ourselves. Some of us already rely on AI to monitor our health or monitor our exercises and things like that. So we are adopting that into our lives, and this is causing a huge change in behavior. What is really fascinating to me is that this is happening. It is basically the first time in history that we are seeing a major change happen while we are alive. But the more important part is 5 generations are alive and changing with it because they are all adapting and adopting AI in different levels, right? So that is why it's so crucial, because big businesses are always aware of new trends and things that are going on. And of course, they have the budget to test, try, fail, test it again, and implement. The small business owner, it is not like that. So the normal behavior is I'm going to wait to see, and then later. If we do that, because we are expecting huge changes in the next 2 years, this year and next year. So we are not talking about things that will happen 5, 10 years from now. We are talking about things already in motion. If we wait to see what happens, we are going to be left behind. And with this changing in personality and behavior, the consumer now is expecting things a different way than they used to do before. And again, we need to be conscious about that and taking action towards, adapting my business to what they want.
In that description, what caught my ear, right? All great information and the differences between large businesses and small businesses and how we show up and navigate through change. But what really made me pause when you said it, 5 generations.
Yeah.
5 generations are navigating change at a rate of speed that is unprecedented.
Totally unprecedented.
And the AI technologies and how they're impacting generationally has to be fascinating. And I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but that really, in my lifetime, I am fortunate that I actually was alive and had 5 generations: my mother, my grandmother, great grandmother,
Nice.
great great, until I was about 7 years old. To think through what differences each of these groups need, and then even take it into how we adopt and play with it and experiment with it in business. There is no other point in time where one technology has touched so many people so fast.
Exactly. And all of them using it in a way or another. Of course, the younger generation being native to digital is a everyday kind of experiment, right? They don't have any barriers to that, but the others are too, right?
Mhm.
So if I consider 5 generations, I'm probably the fourth. I was born in a time that there were no computers whatsoever, right? But
Mhm.
I also belong to one of the that generations that are adopters of things
Yeah.
more than the others, right? We are adopters. We were trained really to see commercials and buy things and experiment things, so we have that behavior. But if I look at the older generation and how I can take care of them and how they can also make sure they live the longest life possible, AI is there all the time as well.
Yeah. So one of the other points that you made, right? In ordinary circumstances, larger businesses have more money to invest into research and development, to experiment, to try new things. And yet, in this space, with AI being so accessible, right? The ability for a small business to leverage something new and make exponential change happen is actually easier than big businesses. So, as you're looking at how this particular technology is impacting your mid-sized clients versus some of your maybe your smaller clients, is there a difference in adoption to this kind of change than in previous trends?
I think there's a little bit more fear of the
Mm.
negative side, because with everything and with every change, there is a good side and a bad side. So it is there. What appalls me is that I've been talking to some entrepreneurs that already have structured businesses, right? And they come and say, "Oh, I heard about that Chat GPT thing. I even put an account there, but I haven't used that." And my thought is, come on, get it going, because that's just like the first window that you open to this, right? You have to be thinking, how could this be beneficial to my business? What is out there? And today, this is exploding at this moment, so you're going to see more and more and more options that are more and more affordable. So
Hmm.
there is really not a reason for a small business owner to start implementing this as fast as possible, but they like to play safe. Is a natural thing with entrepreneurs because the budget is limited, right? And we tend to be extremely focused on what we do every day. If I'm a hairdresser, if I'm a dentist, I'm always with the craft itself, and I forget that I need to allocate time for me to think, let my brain buffer a little bit, and then think about how can I scale, how can I become
Mhm.
bigger and better and have more profit. And the fantastic thing about AI, in my point of view, is that it allows you to do that because it can free your time for you to strategize, because that's what we
Mhm.
do better as entrepreneurs. We love the challenge of solving problems, right? It's an everyday thing, so we can stop, think, and say, okay, now I can do this. So there's really no reason not to be using this right now, but it's new, and we have to understand that people walk at different paces.
They absolutely do. And one of the things that intrigues me in conversations around really embracing, right? We're here on a show called Disrupt and Innovate, right? I want people to
Nice.
challenge their status quo. I want them to disrupt on purpose and make change happen inside of their business, because if we fail to innovate as business owners,
Mhm.
we will fail to have a business.
Yes,
It's not a question of, if, it's a question of when. And so this is so fundamental with the idea, right, that AI can get us out of working in the business, focusing on the business. The idea, a hairdresser and a dentist are both trades and skills, right, that are very literally hands on.
hmm,
But there are still things that AI can do to help in those businesses.
tons of things, Lisa.
Yeah.
Simple things. For example, hairdresser. I have a personal example. Like I told you, I lived in Utah for 20 years. I had my hairdresser, and I'm a very loyal customer, right?
Yeah.
Especially with hairdressing and dentists and things like that. Well, I go because we need to think, we tend to think when we talk about AI that is about the technology and what tools should I use, what tool is better. That's not it. What you have to be thinking is, where do I cause frustration in the
Mhm.
process, in the relationship with my customers, and fix those. So simple thing, I'm there. For some reason, I am always in and out because I have a ton of things to do during the day, right? So I go there, she's cutting my hair, the phone rings naturally, right? It rings. What does she do? Stops what she's doing and answers the phone. Well, point of frustration for me because I want to get in and get out, and I actually don't want her to get distracted. I consider, that I need my look to be the same. She gets frustrated because she's actually trying to multitask, which we
Mhm.
know it doesn't work well. And the customer on the other line feels rushed,
Mhm.
maybe doesn't have the questions answered the way they wanted. So you cause frustrations with the prospect, with the existing customer, with yourself unnecessarily,
Yeah.
because the AI could be answering those phones, talking like almost a real human being, making an appointment, making a sale, doing basic questions and answers and things like that. And we don't see, we think we have to do everything. Now, I don't know the average haircut. Let's say it's $100. Every phone call that you miss because you're busy with something else is $100 down the drain because it was a possible client that you didn't book. So just make, and this is for $100. You might have a ticket that is 1,000. You may have a ticket that is 3,000. How much money at the end of the year are you missing just because of the phone? We are now talking on a podcast, right? I'm not answering my phone. You're not answering yours. What if there is a client calling right now? Are we just going to miss and say, oh, well, that's life in business? Or are we going to put some mechanism that can take care of that in a very nice way, because
Mhm.
AI is not what it used to be 6 months ago, and get rid of that point of frustration?
Yeah.
And we all have that as business owners. We actually should do lists. I tell my clients, the 10 pain points that you see that your customers go through, because we are not, nobody's perfect. If we are perfect, like as a business, we need to question what we are doing too, right? So we know there are points that could be better. We
Yeah.
should pay attention to them, do not deny them, accept, embrace, and let's fix it,
Yes.
right?
So, what you've just described is the starting point of understanding a customer journey
Hmm.
and talking about removing points of friction, right? If that is the whole point of any enabling technology, right, is to help us level out what we can't do, right? That we started out with online bookings, right? Here's access to my calendar. Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
everybody has access to my calendar. I wonder why I'm never, I'm always so overbooked. Um, but taking this experience and leveraging AI, I love make the list of your customer pain points,
Hmm.
right? And then how do we start to solve for that? The phone call is a great example of, it in a busy salon, the phone does ring all day. And in many of them, it just goes straight to voicemail,
Exactly.
right?
Restaurants, for example,
Restaurants.
they go crazy sometimes because it's one of the first things that fluctuates when there are changes in the market, and they get scared because their profit margin is not that big.
Yep.
But at the same time, on a busy Friday, they have to ignore the phone in order to take care of the full restaurant. But then on Tuesday, they're empty and they don't know why. And you keep thinking, okay, here you have a friction point. Here you have frustration on both sides.
Yep.
Let's fix that, right? And you're talking about the journey of a customer. The very first thing before we start thinking, what tools should I use? What's cool about AI today is, okay, do I really know who I cater to in a very intimate level, in the
Mhm.
sense that I can pinpoint what are the three things that give them fear, and what are the three things that they see as their mission in life, why they do things how they do? Because if I don't have that, tools are tools. And if I cannot cater in a way that I will have the right conversation, because I need to train the AI, if I don't know I'm talking to women from 25 to 65, it's not going to be good from the get go, because a woman at 25 has different needs, worries, and desires than a woman that is 65. Total different storylines, right? But we get busy doing what we do, and we never stop to think these things first. And then you say, okay, now I know who I'm talking to. I really know who is my ideal customer, avatar, however you call that. And now I can look for the right tool to implement. And because I know the pain points, I know what they hate, I know everything.
And if we don't know our customer, right, we run into the trap of what I call implementing super fast bad.
Exactly.
Whatever we do wrong, if we enable it with technology, we're going to do it more wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. And it happens. Yeah.
It happens every day.
Uh-huh.
And so understanding and knowing your customer is important. And a point that I love to make is don't assume you know them unless you've asked them.
Very
Right?
well
Getting
said.
it from the horse's mouth is always the safe bet. Any assumption that you're making about your customers, I have a dollar that I would wager that you're have an 80% probability of being totally wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. Never judge
Um,
your customer too, right? Because we tend to judge. We tend to judge if they have money or they don't, if they have a network behind them or not, and we make very bad decisions due to this judgment that we do.
Right, right. All of the things that we bring into our assumption model is
Yes.
more often than not, and I'm being particularly flippant, but I am passionate about it. We bring garbage to the conversation if we don't ask questions directly.
Exactly.
Shahar, can you tell me a story about a time a client that you've worked with that you've made a significant impact, leveraging AI for them and to improve their customer experience?
I have examples with restaurants, for example, that we have. I find it fascinating because I love the business of restaurants. I would never have one. I think it's a very risky business, but I love the dynamics, and I know very well the restaurant owner, and the fear of everything. They have a big fear of change, and the funny thing is, as we implement these things, for example, a voice employee answering the phone. We do everything, we automate everything. So, for example, in one restaurant in Utah, we did a promotion now for Valentine's Day, and we not only combine the AI taking reservations, simple thing that can be done, because people will make reservations early in the morning, in the middle of the day, times that the restaurant is closed. They are losing all that money. And we also send a postcard in the mail with an offer, all automated. So nobody had to design or pay for, well, they had to pay, but they didn't have to put the stamps. He has 2 units, broke a record. He's been in business for many years, broke a record of attendance, not only on Friday, the Valentine's Day, but also on Saturday. Two simple things. It was not, let's go here and change everything that you have. It's, let's do two things and see how it goes. Now, once they understand how it works, then you can say, okay, why don't you also take care of this? Uh, Restaurants have this thing about not collecting data from their customers. I my jaw drops every single time. So I told you I've been in Puerto Rico for about a few months. I go out with my daughter every day to have lunch because it's actually the time we can have a meeting. We work together. And I go to the same places because I know that it's not going to take long. The food comes out, everything fine. I've been going there for 6 months. Not once as somebody asked my name or my email or my phone number. I mean, I have birthdays, I have friends, I have network.
Mhm.
No, I could be bringing business to them from other sources, but there is no interest whatsoever. And this is one example of hundreds, right? That I have step in. And you keep thinking, why? Because then they don't see, they are always frustrated. They don't have enough people. A
And
coupon is not going to solve that. You see, you have to have that communication with your customer.
well, the coupon can solve the short-term problem of bringing people in the door the first time.
Yeah.
How do you bring them back the second, the third, and the
Exactly.
100th?
Exactly. And with AI, the biggest trend we are seeing is the need for hyper personalization of your
Mm,
customers. Because we were first inside the house because of COVID, right? And we got used to being inside the house. Then there was the work from home thing, which we got even more. Now we are catering the house for ourselves, right? I can clap and the lights will go on, all kinds of devices around the house. Going to the movies is a lot. It's better to be at home because I cater the experience to what I
mm,
want than going out to the movies. So when I go out, and this also caused a lot of isolation in
mhm.
many levels. Harvard did a study that 1 in every 5 Americans feel extremely lonely. That's a lot of people, right? So when we go out, we don't want to be invisible. That's the crucial part. We don't want to be invisible, and we want to sense that you know we matter, that we are important in your business. But if you don't bother even asking my name, don't put any AI in place because it's not going to work, right? We need to understand my business needs to be on a more personal level. It does not matter what you do, what kind of business you have. It needs to make sure that the follow up that you're doing with that client is showing that you care about them, that they matter, and they are not invisible. And the older we are, the more important that is right now, because you know it's unbelievable, but I can go to a website right now, try to buy a purse, and I have to put my age. Don't know why I have to put my age, but I have to put my age, and it will go up to 50. So I do not exist. And the website is telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
So we become invisible to society. We are still the generation that spends the most. There is no other generation that spends more than the baby boomers, but we are invisible right now. And if my parents were alive, they would be feeling even worse. So we need to understand, if you know your ideal client and the age they are, you know that you will need to get on a more personal level, and your messages will have to be on a more emotional level, because we that's what we are looking for. None of us is living a very easy moment, right? Because there's so many changes happening all the time that is overwhelming. So this overwhelmed being is going to get out and go to the supermarket, and it will expect things to happen that will make them feel better. So he comes back and comes back and comes back.
Mm-hmm.
If they are ignored from the door out to the door, too bad.
Absolutely. Shahar, beautiful conversation about the impact that AI can have in service businesses in ways that we probably didn't even quite think about. If you've piqued the interest and curiosity from somebody in the audience, how do they learn more about you?
If they go to proptalkie.com, prop like in property, talkie like walkie talkie, they get to the website, scroll down, you have the report for the AI driven trends. I would really suggest to read those, because I have catered for different types of businesses, things that they can do, because not all solutions out there in AI are for you, right? So you need to see. Maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you're a dentist. There's also the five laws of irresistibility, where we talk about how we go on an emotional level with our clients, so we become irresistible to a market. Because you may have good branding, you may have a good mission statement, but again, if you're not taking care of that relationship, it's not going to work. So that would be the best.
Absolutely wonderful. The link will be in the show notes so it's easy for people to find. In the conversation today, we have talked about the impact of AI across 5 generations and how each generation has unique and specific needs, and how we as individuals today have a higher expectation of being seen. And when we interact in public and in person, our expectations are greater than they were 5 years ago, and in many cases, greater than they were 10 years ago, because our world did change. But to leverage AI, like leveraging any technology or any change to our business processes, it's important that we start with understanding our customers. I fully believe that our customers should always be at the center of every business decision we make. We need to understand their fear and their mission so that we can serve them well. And when we take these leaps forward into the future, start small and build on the success. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, because it will change your business for the better if you do it on purpose. Shahar, thank you so much for being here with me today. And audience members, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show.